Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Geeks Who Like Sports, episode number 63. As always, I am Ray Carcillo in beautiful Los Angeles, California, although actually today it's a little dreary, and joined by my best friend, as always, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Lee Elias. Lee, how are you doing, my friend?
What was that? Did you see that?
It's the Batmobile!
What was that? You guys... Oh my... We'll get into that today. Sorry, I love surprising Ray with props at the beginning of each show. Ray, I'm doing well. It's actually kind of like 90 degrees here in Philadelphia today, which I hate, but my wife loves, so I'll take it. Doing well. We got a ton of talk about today, so I'm going to spare the audience my usual antics, except for this Batmobile, which I have brought in because we're going to be talking about Michael Keaton today.
Yes.
Not Diane Keaton. Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton. Yes.
We'll get into it in a bit. I'm Lee. This is Ray. This is Geeks Who Like Sports, episode number 64?
63. 63.
That's what I said. Not getting ahead of ourselves, and go.
Yeah, so we got a great show for you, folks. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. Comments from Jon Favreau on listening to his fans. We've got the whole Bubba Wallace thing going on in NASCAR. Some interesting developments there. Cobra Kai has a new home. How about that? And, of course, we've also got the major sports, but we're going to kick things off with, and yes, of course, we're talking about Michael Keaton possibly returning to the DC universe. We'll definitely get into all of that and more, but first, we are kicking things off with our lead sports story. Baseball is happening after all of the drama, the fight, the public fighting, the private fighting, the social media fighting, the back and forth between the MLB owners and the MLBPA. They finally settled on a 60-game season. They'll be reporting to training camp at the beginning of July. The season will kick off July 23rd for some teams, July 24th for others. And they have finally come to terms on the money. Lee, has all the fighting soured us at all, or are you just happy that baseball's back? How are you feeling about this?
I'm a little soured. I'd be hypocritical if I wasn't, to be honest with you, but I'm a little sour. This is how we discovered this. You and I were talking, I think, one night, and it was like, oh man, the players rejected the last owner's proposal, and then it was like 10 minutes later, it's like, but the owners accepted the players' proposal from 2 months ago. And I was like, at first I was really confused, like, wait, what do you mean? Like, they accepted, what? And then it's like, wait, so they just blindly accepted all the conditions of the players from a few months ago? So we could have been playing a few months ago or planning for a few months? What?
They basically
I'm a little sour about it.
Yeah, the owners just gave in, realizing how, I'm imagining they realized how detrimental to the sport it would be. And then it already was all this fighting. You know?
Somebody must have told them. Somebody must have wised them up to like, hey, look, guys,
yeah,
you're destroying your sport. And again, we're going to get into, on the show, sports coming back pretty deeply. As we asked the comments in our group chat that exploded when we asked it. But look, I'm happy it's back. I'm happy for baseball fans especially. I'm happy they found a way forward. But no, I'm still shaken. I'm not saying I'm not going to watch or anything like that. I'm shaken. Baseball, you've got a lot to figure out. This was so uncalled for. This was obvious. Now you could have had an 80-game season. Now you're going to have a 60-game season.
Yep.
This season will absolutely have some form of, not an asterisk, but something like that surrounding it. The team that wins will always be the COVID team. It's just, you screwed up. And I'll be the optimist. I'll be the positive person. Learn from this, please. Please learn from this. You are really screwing up. And it's like, I know you don't care. I really do. I know you don't care about what's going on outside of your clubhouse, but this has got to stop. You're becoming the epitome of what people hate about sports when you do things like this.
Yeah, exactly. We've said it, and at least I've simplified it many times, where it just starts to feel like millionaires fighting with billionaires, and that's the last thing that you want your sports league to be identified as, where it's just a bunch of rich jerks who are just fighting with each other, and nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to buy your stuff or emulate your players when they look like a bunch of greedy crybabies, and nobody empathizes with the billionaire owners who typically don't put enough back into their teams anyway. Like it's a sad state of things, and like you mentioned, Lee, This will be more so than probably any other sport. The champion will be labeled the COVID champion because also there are huge rule changes that are being implemented this year for this.
Massive rule changes.
Yes.
Yeah, massive.
The National League will have a DH now, so the DH is universal this year. In extra innings after the 10th, a runner will be placed on second base in order to try and expedite the end of the game. You're seeing, and of course,
it's just ridiculous. By the way, that's a rule I don't even like.
Yeah, no, it's a ridiculous rule. I like the idea more of after the 14th inning there'd be a tie, but they didn't go that route. They wanted no ties still in baseball. And I think that, and of course, there's the schedule itself, where in order to try and keep players safe, they have they're doing what they're calling, I guess, the bubble schedules, where it's you play each team in your division 10 times for 40, so that's a total of 40 games, and then you play the National League counterpart of your division for a total of each team 5 games each. So that's how the 60 games.
Or American League for me,
right. Yes,
so we'll be playing the Phillies will be playing the Yankees and the Red Sox, and
right.
So it'll be interesting this year. But look, changing the rules, we always talk about the integrity of the sport. I could have swallowed. There's just no extra innings this year. There's just ties.
Yep.
You don't even need extra innings. Just if it's tied after 9, that's it. It's a tie.
Yeah.
I could have, but like putting a runner. I mean, that's like pulling the goalie for a team in hockey. It's like we're just gonna pull the goalie if it goes to too many overtimes in the playoffs, and whoever scores. What are you doing? What are you guys doing now?
Yeah.
With this said, I gotta believe that, like, again, the first 2 contract disputes, most fans were like, okay, they'll figure it out. But then it kept going, and I think someone probably wised up to the owners of like, hey, people aren't accepting this anymore. Like, what are you doing? Oh, let's just change the rules to baseball. And again, the DH thing I'm excited about as an NL fan because I like the DH. I never had a problem with that. I never understood why pitchers have to bat. All right, I just never got that. Like, I'm not a traditionalist with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm fine with the DH rule. Yeah.
Yeah, most American League fans tell me it's awesome. There's nothing like a comeback being stunted because your pitcher's coming up to bat. Right. You know what I'm trying to say? So it's better for the game. But I mean, putting a runner on second base that you didn't earn, that's unbelievable. Well, whose idea was that? I want to find them.
Even that, so is it going to be somebody off the bench who's like the designated second base runner? Is it going to be somebody? Is the first person due up going to be put on second base and it's just automatically goes to the second guy? Like, what is this? Like, so I mean, because even that, because they're also carrying expanded rosters, which makes perfect sense, of course, in the in case somebody gets sick or
shouldn't be a rule.
But yeah,
it should not be a rule.
No, it's a terrible rule. It's a terrible idea.
It should just end.
I mean, and look, if it ends up being a super exciting thing and it ends up being good for the game and people end up look, I'll eat crow, but on paper, this sounds terrible.
I don't see any scenario where people are going to accept a victory like that.
No.
And what I mean by that is the team that loses, or it's like, oh, what happened? Well, we went to extra innings, so they put our fastest guy on the second base, and then we got a bunt and we scored.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
that's hitting the 8 ball in, man. I that's a rule that messes with the game.
Yeah,
you're better off just tying. So you're willing to. This is the thing I don't get. You're willing to put a baseball player on second base, but you're not willing to have a tie. Yeah, that makes no sense to me. Again, let's just go through each sport. In hockey, it'd be either like pulling a guy off the ice. Or an additional guy. It's 4-on-4, then it's 3-on-3. People know that, okay?
Yeah.
In certain sports, right? That's how they evolved it. This is like pulling the goalie in hockey, right? In football, it's like adding extra receivers on the field. Yeah. Okay? In basketball, it's like adding an extra player on the court.
Yeah.
Or just saying next basket wins.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
The only thing that I can think of that it kind of, in a way, reminds me of is it's kind of like college football, where when you're in overtime in college football, you already start in field goal range, right? And then obviously you get a chance to trade off and go back and forth, which you'll also get here in baseball, right? In the top of the away team will have that in the top of the 11th, the road team will have that, or the home team will have that in the bottom of the 11th, a chance to tie. Right?
I mean, I don't think it's like that at all. I mean, I'm not trying to disagree with you, but like that's field positioning, right? Like the difference in baseball, that would be like, okay, we're moving the outfield, like the home run, I'm going to bring it in 10 yards. All right, so now if you hit it, that it's a home run now if you hit it there. Like that's what that is to me. Mm-hmm. I don't know, dude. I think they screwed this up massively. Yeah, I do. And again, I'm happy for people that love baseball. I really am. I mean that.
Yep.
But I think this is a complete screw up. They should have been leading the way, and now they're. And then by the way, I love how they're jumping over everybody to get back first. Give me a break. Yeah. Leapfrogging everybody.
Yes, every other league is starting probably end of July or early August, and baseball is like, no, we'll be back July 23rd, a week before everyone else to undercut. I mean, I will say this. I mean, I guess in a way because everybody's fresh and because typically this is when baseball would be. It's going to be interesting to see what happens during what they're calling now the second spring training, which starts July 1st.
Great.
I mean, it's
maybe starts July 1st.
Maybe, yes. As of right now, on paper, right. Like, there's still things that need to be put in place before July 1st. I mean, we're recording this on June 28th, so a lot can happen in the next 3 days, 2 days if you're listening on the first day of recording, but or being public. No, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I mean, who knows? There might not be a lot of extra inning games. It's only 60 games, but
that's another part of it that's a problem, but that's okay. Like I said, 80 games is kind of like I could handle that. 60 games, it's like, all right, man, you're running. This is a gauntlet, and then it's right to the postseason.
It's about. You
have a bad start, that's it. The Yankees have a bad start, done. I mean, I'm not trying to pick on the Yankees.
No, it's true.
Bad start, you're done.
Anybody, I mean, you look at the Nationals last year, right, as a perfect example. I mean, that's why baseball is always. The one thing about baseball that's always been interesting is that it really truly is a marathon more than a sprint. Where
not anymore.
I mean, if you have a slow start, if you have a 19-31 start the way the Nationals did last year, you're done. You're done. That's it. You could also have some surprise teams. You could have teams that infamously get off to fast starts. Right, like teams like Miami or Kansas City or the Mets or any of these other teams, Pittsburgh, these small market teams, and they could steal a playoff spot for it. And they typically these are teams that because of youth, because of not having a good trade deadline for a variety of reasons, don't make the playoffs. They could steal a playoff spot. Like you could have the craziest playoff picture scenario ever. You could have the Marlins win the East. Who knows?
Right. Listen, the MLB should hope for such excitement. It's just one of those things of like there's going to be baseball. That's great in terms of for the fans. There'll be baseball, but the champion of this will never unless they win another one soon. We'll never have a chance. It's just not the way it's going to work out.
No,
in my opinion,
it's going to be. It's going to be. I mean, of all the sports, there will be no greater asterisk probably than the one on the 2020 World Series. But I will say this:
if Houston wins.
Yes. Oh, good. Yeah, there's definitely a few teams, but there are definitely a few teams that will have an asterisk if those in particular win. But I will say this: if the Yankees win it all, I will take this as the mulligan for 1994 for cutting the season short when the Yankees had the best record in baseball. So that's the only acceptable outcome for me in 2020.
Such what a Yankee fan would say. No, but it's okay for us because listen, all baseball fans, all of you out there, enjoy it. Enjoy baseball. I mean that.
Yes.
That's all I'm going to say.
Let's go Yankees. Moving on to the NFL. We're talking about everything. The reason why all this is happening is because of the pandemic. The NFL has put out some diagrams of some possibly different helmets that for the pandemic to try and keep. Basically, it removes the traditional barred face mask and completely seals the with obviously like with a breathing piece in there, seals the mouth of players, so it almost looks like a motorcycle helmet with like a breathing.
Yeah, it's exactly what it looks like.
Yeah,
it looks exactly like that.
what are your thoughts on this positive? First off, can they produce them fast enough in time for the NFL season, which is supposed to start in 2 months, and preseason is supposed to start in a month and a half? What do you think of the new NFL pandemic helmet?
What, you mean outside the box thinking to find a solution? I think pretty highly of it. They look awesome, number one, just from the images. They look really good.
Yeah.
Yes, I think they can get them made in time because, it's 32 teams times how many players? 100 players a team?
50, yeah, 100 players, 90 players typically in preseason.
I mean, when you get the full roster with practice squads and stuff like that. So let's just say you said 90 per team times 32. People do the math. They could make that.
Yeah, it's about 3,000 helmets, yeah.
They could get that done, right? Especially like if Rydell or whoever's behind it. I'm sure that if it needs to get done, they'll get it done.
Right.
All right. And it's like it's also kind of obvious like why maybe some other sports should be looking at this. Football plays outside most of the time.
Yeah.
They probably need this less. Like like hockey and basketball doesn't wear helmets. Hockey might want to look into something like this too. Outside the box thinking brings in solutions. This is the first time in a long time, really, that we're thinking of the NFL positively.
Yeah.
With a lot of things that they've done recently. so
Seriously.
Look, I love them. I don't want to spend too much time on them. If you guys haven't seen them, go check out just, COVID-19 NFL helmet. Looks great. It protects the players. It might even be better for concussions the way it's looking. And I'm sure they could keep them temperature controlled if they really wanted to. I mean, there's a lot of technology in that. And yeah, it's a great idea. Outside the box thinking. Who knew?
Yeah.
Who knew?
So welcome in unusual times.
I can't stand how slow things move. I can't stand how slow things move sometimes because people can't look outside the box.
No, well, we definitely agree on.
Oh, wait, Ray, I'm looking outside the box. Here's an idea. Let's put a man on second base if it's in extra innings. We're just gonna put a man on second base.
Yes.
What the hell? Sorry, go ahead.
Sometimes, yeah. So
that's the voice. That's the voice I imagine that guy had.
Oh, let's put him on second base.
So, quick personal story. Just because
why not third base? Why not third base? Well, no, the third base is too close to home plate. Well, why not first base? It's not close enough to winning. But second base, we can do second base. Go ahead, Ray. Sorry.
We're very quick personal story. Someone who's near and dear to both our hearts, Lawrence Londino. I'll never forget this because I got. Long story short, I did something. I went against.
Doctor.
I was told not to do something, and I did it anyway. And took cameras to Giant Stadium in the middle of the winter. It's a long story, but I basically went to Larry. He yelled at me a lot, and I got into a lot of trouble for it. And he was basically like, he's like, "What were you thinking?" I'm like, "Well, you're always saying like you should think outside the box." He's like, "You thought too far outside the box with this." So
Larry Londino, Dr. Londino was the chair of our broadcasting department when we were in college, and Ray and I both almost got kicked out of our program.
Yep.
For various stories. I'll tell my story another time, but I actually did get kicked out for about 12 hours. But yeah. Well, we were trailblazers, and he taught us to do it, so we blame him.
Exactly. We were just doing what we were taught, right? Like
yeah.
So
yeah. I mean,
anyway.
look, Larry, we kind of made it.
Yeah. Oh goodness, but yeah.
Montclair State University Broadcasting Department. Thank you for making us have our dreams come
true.
true.
Now look, I have a prop. See, yay.
Oh, wow. I think mine's at my dad's house.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, I've got the prop you really want, Ray. Let's just be honest about it, okay? Yeah. Batmobile.
Oh goodness, memory lane. Yeah. So NFL, good on you for thinking outside the box with these helmets. I think it's a great idea. For sure. And honestly, we're also very excited just the fact that we're talking about sports again as if they're about to happen, they're about to come back. That brings us to our next topic, which is Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, made a statement that Lee and I are pretty much in agreement on, and that it's good that sports are coming back. Obviously, nothing is going to be without risk no matter what they do, but that it's going to be good for people in general. People want sports to come back. And I mean, Lee, we put this into the group yesterday.
Yeah, let me read the quote.
Yes.
I'm going to read the quote.
Yes,
to
read the
okay,
quote.
So this is from Adam Silver. This is the commissioner of the NBA. Okay, we are left with no choice but to learn to live with this virus. No options are risk-free right now. We're coming back because sports matter in our society. They bring people together when they need it most. End quote.
Yeah.
So we put this into our group chat, and we just, we were just thinking, okay, I have something I put, and I just put in there, like, tell us how you feel. Well, you felt something about it because it became one of our most popular posts of all time in terms of interaction. 44 comments back, and some of them are a little surprising to me. I mean, should we read some of them, Ray, or should we just kind of discuss it?
I think we should just discuss. I don't think we need to call out anybody individually. I think we just.
But there's names in here I can call out, and you're telling me not to. I won't do it. I'm just kidding. Look, the large consensus here, and I'll let Ray talk after this. Okay, Ray? Like, I'll let you have the first word. Mm-hmm. The large consensus here is that Adam Silver and the sports leagues are being greedy, that they are doing this just for the money, that it is largely unsafe, that they don't care about anyone else, and that this is a bad idea. All right. Now there are some people in here that are making very legit points. I won't say any names, but there's a person in here who is an ER nurse who has seen people die from COVID-19. They have a very strong stance on this. I can understand where that person's coming from very much. By the way, thank you for being on the front lines with this. We also have people that are disagreeing with it, but for also other sensible reasons. But I gotta be honest with you. Like, Ray and we're not on that page, and we're gonna discuss it now. We want to hear back from you on the page. So, Ray, why don't you jump in and go ahead?
Yeah, I mean, I think that to me, Adam Silver really hit the nail on the head. I think that people need sports. They need something to come together, especially right now. We're at such a divisive time in our country in general. Tensions are high because some of us have been literally isolated now for 4 months, like, who have had very little interaction with other human beings. And sports offer a distraction from what has become a bit of a strenuous existence in terms of mentally, emotionally, and I think that sports offer some respite from that. And I think that, yes, look, like he said, there's going to be risk, and they are doing everything they can to mitigate these risks. They're playing in front of empty arenas. You look, though, wrestling's been doing this for months. WWE and AEW have both hunkered down in their Florida home bases. The only people in the crowds are other wrestlers or staff, sometimes immediate family, but, like, literally that's it. It can be done, and yes, of course, there's also been outbreaks. There's been a recent outbreak in the WWE. Renee Young, one of the interviewers, one of the on-air personality broadcasters for WWE, has contracted it, and thus her husband, Jon Moxley, who, of course, is the AEW World Champion right now, has had to self-quarantine. Look, there's no risk. Obviously, Jim Ross, the legendary Jim Ross, isolated himself at the beginning of this because he's an older gentleman and he wanted to make sure that he was okay before he returned on air. And of course, it's very tragic, everyone who is getting sick, and especially everyone who's passed away from this. Not just in the United States, but worldwide. But if these individuals who wish to put themselves supposedly in harm's way wish to come back and play and entertain us and give us this respite that, honestly, I know I need, people I talk to know that they need, that they would welcome this with open arms, then I think that we should respect and honor these people's wishes, and I think we should enjoy the fact that these people are willing to try to entertain us during what is really a dark time. So, yeah.
Yeah, like I said, let's attack this like a few of bullet points at a time, because the number one concern, the number one concern from our group, which is totally fair, was safety, right? The safety of people, like that. Yes. That was by and large the number one thing, and like that's respectable completely. We Ray and I agree with that in terms of safety. All right, so here's a few things on the safety. One is, it seems like there was some confusion here from some people. There will be no fans in the buildings when the sports teams play. That's
None.
Number one. So that is a major risk factor taken out of it. Okay. Mm-hmm. Again, some people just didn't seem to know that. That's okay. So number one, there will be no fans. Number two, we just did an interview with Mark Friedman, Philadelphia Flyer, and Phantom too. He plays in the AHL too. He told us on that interview the daily testing, and the types of testing he and the other NHL players are going through right now to get ready to play again. I'm not going to tell you what they are because we want you to listen to that episode.
Yeah.
Okay? But they are extensive. I mean, way more extensive than I thought. Okay?
Yeah.
Like, if someone's going to get this thing in any NHL camp, I can't talk about the other sports. All we know, the NBA has these rings and stuff like that. It's going to be caught very quickly.
And yeah,
all
that
right?
person will be isolated, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So from let me put it this way: the sports leagues seem, from my point of view, to be taking not every precaution beyond that. They're doing every possible thing they can to make sure that their athletes are safe. Mm-hmm. On top of that, they are almost self-quarantined all the time, or they're with the group of people that they're with. Okay. So from a player's safety standpoint, in terms of ownership, the league and the management have done above and beyond what they need to do. From a player's standpoint, this is the thing that's not talked about, and this wasn't talked about once in this conversation, and it kind of annoyed me, is that no one is twisting the players' arms to come back. Now, you can disagree with me on that, but I've spoken to more than one player now, and they said, no, it's our choice. They are choosing, some of them with, and this is something Mark Friedman talked about, some of them with newborn children and families, to leave that because they understand getting back to the games is important. And not every one of these guys is paid the way you think they are. All right? I can tell you right now, Mark Friedman is not the highest paid player on the Flyers. All right? So my point to you is this. All right? They're choosing to come back, and they're very aware of what it means to the fan base. They're very aware of what they're bringing back. All right? So I think when you put all that together, this is not a scenario like what a lot of the states are making mistakes of, like, let's open the bars and you just show up and you risk it.
Yeah.
It's like these guys are getting tested hourly, and they are in, out of the arena. There's a lot of precautions that, at least from where I sit, are acceptable to me, and you do not have to agree with me on that. Okay? But from where I sit, they're acceptable to me. Then there's well, what if one of the players dies? Okay.
Be a tragedy.
This is where the statement... It would be tragic, but this is where the risk of what he said comes in. All right? The virus is not killing extremely healthy people in this age group. Okay?
Yeah.
The statistics are on their side with that. All right? Now, look, at the end of the day, and this is where we transition to the next point, okay? It's easier just to not do it and reduce the risk, but, and again, this is where a lot of people are going to disagree with me probably. That's kind of not the way we do things. Okay, we move forward in times like this, okay, with precautions. I think a lot of places in America are doing that wrong. I think the sports leagues are doing it right. The last big comment from almost everyone was money and how this is greedy and they're doing it for money. I got news for all of you. They are not making money on this. They are losing money.
Yeah.
The owners and the leagues will lose money on this.
Yeah, the TV contracts aren't that lucrative to make this up. A lot of these places rely on the gate.
Yeah, except for the NFL, okay, who their TV contract is worth more because they play less than 20 games a season.
Yeah.
The leagues will lose money on these games being played. There is no way. I don't care if they renegotiate their broadcast deals, which is not going to happen.
No.
And they get twice of what they were getting. Without the gate, they will lose money every single time.
Yep.
Okay? Keeping in mind, too, they're only playing in the NHL a few host cities.
Yeah.
In the NBA, they're playing in just Orlando.
Yeah.
So I got to squash that conversation because this is not about just money. Now, you can make an argument, long-term branding and, we're trying to keep the fans coming back. That would be a fair argument. But I'm sorry, friends, the greediness, that doesn't play into this for me. This is more triumph. Triumph is not the word. This is more being steadfast and taking a risk in the eye of, taking a risk in the face of something that's risky. And again, I kind of applaud them for doing that because I've seen it and they're doing it the right way. All right. Yeah. There's also a lot of talk here about like capitalism, and it's like, again, this is not about the money. I don't see any argument that's good enough right now that's getting me in this conversation. I mean, we're surprised all of a sudden about the leagues trying to make money. I mean, no. So again, I don't necessarily think capitalism is a bad thing. Again, that's my opinion. You do not have to agree with that at all. All right. But again, they are going to lose money. They will lose money. Every sports league will lose money if they play without fans in the building. You have to know that. It's not just as simple as surface as, oh, well, they're just being greedy. Unfortunately, I do not agree with you on that statement. All right? I again, they're doing everything I can possibly imagine for player safety and beyond, right? They're taking all precautions. You have to remember this is a two-way street, and the players had to agree to this, and the players want to play.
And
they desperately want to play. Yes, and a large reason is that they know people need this. Mark Friedman openly said that. We know people need this right now.
Yeah,
they are not going to make money.
I implore you to listen to the Mark Friedman interview when it comes out Thursday. Just his schedule alone of what he goes through to stay on the ice, to test, to...
He had to cancel our original podcast because of that. He had to cancel a podcast.
Yeah, we were actually...
Originally, because he was going to go test.
Yeah, we were actually going to have him on. We were actually going to have him on a week earlier, but there was a conflict because it takes him also because he also has to drive. It takes him so long to drive to the testing facility and then come back. So we actually had to and for him to play, it had something he has to do, and he wants to do it, and he's willing to do it. And like I said, I implore you to listen to it. And just a couple other things again. Look, Lee and I, we're not going to get political with this for sure. Like, I mean, look, some states have done better than others, definitely, and there's definitely a risk out there.
There's idiots out there. Please, there are idiots out there. I don't want to,
by the way,
I don't want you people to think
wear a mask. Wear a mask. This is our PSA.
Just please wear a mask.
Yes,
we are pro wearing a mask.
Yes, like it's like,
apparently it is. Wear a mask.
Yes, it's really like it's literally the least you can do, but also. It's like we said, they know the risk. We talk about it a lot here on the show because it's something we both really enjoyed was The Last Dance. And when they went to Michael Jordan when he hurt his foot, and they're like, there's a 10% chance you'll never play again. He's like, that means there's a 90% chance that I can get us to the playoffs. like that I can still play and everything will be fine.
It's a great example.
Nothing will happen. And the odds for this are even better because especially like Lee said, they are going and taking every precaution necessary. Like it really was talking to Mark was really eye-opening for me too. And real in terms of what these guys are going through to get on the field or on the ice. And it really, I think it's definitely a big deal. And again, the players understand the risks and they're willing to take them.
Here's a statement, Ray, that I just realized with you saying this, okay? When you listen to this episode and you hear the stuff that he's going through, there are pro-mask wearers out there that would not accept this level of testing. Meaning that if your job said you have to do this, and this, there are pro-mask wearers, people that wear masks gladly for other people that would say there's no way I'm doing that much testing. That's how much testing these guys are going through. And it's going to become a distraction to the game. I'm telling you, because of how much they're going to have to do, and they're going to have to live through it. So, listen, I want to say this, and this is my closing remark on it. I'm not trying to compare a professional athlete with the ER nurse that I spoke of before. Okay? That person is literally trying to save lives and watching people die. There is no comparison with what I'm about to say in terms of severity and the output and the giving of that job. But I do see these athletes on some level understanding that there is a higher purpose to them playing right now and that they know the country needs something. And I think the fact that they know that and they're willing to come back and play, knowing that, and you can shove their salaries down my throat and all you want. The fact that they know there's a risk and they're willing to come back and they're willing to go through this testing to make sure that the country feels a little bit better is pretty darn noble to me. Okay? I can't say this stuff. You don't have to disagree with me. If you disagree, please feel free to comment below. It's supposed to be a discussion. We've always encouraged discussions, all right, as long as it's a two-way discussion. But I was really shocked with this kind of retort from the people in our group. Guys, I don't know how to say this. Owners and commissioners are not as evil, all of them, I should say. Some of them are. They're not as evil as you think they are. Okay? All right, I'm not saying they're great people all the time, okay? Like, the MLB owners have really lost me, too. But, like, it's so easy to be like, well, they're just after the money. They're just greedy. And it's just not they're not going to make money on this, all right? If they do, I will be the first one to come on here and say I was wrong. They found a way to break the system, and they made money, even though I don't think that's a bad thing if they can find out how to make money as long as they're keeping people safe. But Man, I was shocked. I was really shocked with the comeback to that, and I hope this becomes another point of discussion when you watch this full episode or mini clip on Geeks Who Like Sports, airing every week on the podcast channels that you know.
Yes, yeah. As Lee said, like, look, me and Lee, probably more than anybody else, we are more than happy to eat crow if we're wrong on these sorts of things. Like, it's just it is what it is. But the fact that and also got to remember a lot of the players. There are players who have talked about they won't come back, and that's their decision, and they also shouldn't be vilified if that's their choice. Like Mike Trout says he's like 50-50 right now, and if he's going to play this year because he hasn't, like, speaking of those players that have newborns, he has a newborn as well. Like, and that's his choice, and that's fine by him, and he'll probably forego his salary. And again, speaking of money, if he's smart, he probably can forego a year's salary. Depending on especially somebody like Mike Trout who just signed, what was I think a $33 million a year deal. Like, I mean,
it's a stupid amount of money.
Right? Yeah. No. Exactly. So he can forego a year's salary, and that's fine. And he should not be vilified. Like, I'm sure there's gonna be Angel fans out somewhere, especially down in Orange County, who'll be like, "But why isn't he playing ball for us?" It's like, well, because he for him personally. And that's
his choice.
It's his choice. And I think that's also been a good thing that the unions have worked it out to where it's like if you don't want to come back, you don't have to, but just understand you're not going to get paid. And I think that's for some guys, that's fine. And that's perfectly fine as well, which again will only make all of these sports leagues coming back more interesting because a guy who might be second or third on a depth chart now might be put into starting duty. So that's going to make things interesting too. But yeah, so on that note, we've been talking about Mark Friedman a lot. We've been talking about hockey a lot. Again, comment below on all of this. It's a lot, I know, to digest. But
check out that Mark Friedman interview. Just look for it. It's a Geeks Like Sports leaderboard interview. Mark Friedman. It was again really good. I mean, we talked about him about geek stuff too, but it was just really good because he really gave us an inside look at what these athletes are going through. And I think it's really despicable that the press has not followed that more. All right, because I haven't heard anything about this.
There's some breaking news in there that hasn't been revealed anywhere else. So look for that on Thursday. That's gonna be a good one. But speaking of hockey, a couple other big hockey news this week. And speaking of business and money,
I like hockey. I like hockey.
I know you like hockey. I know, Lee. That's why we got some more hockey for you here today, buddy. It's gonna be all right. So we still don't know what the Seattle team is gonna be called up in the expansion franchise up in Seattle, but we do know that they are not gonna be playing in Key Arena. They are gonna be playing in Climate Pledge Arena as the naming rights were bought by Amazon. And I will say this is actually fascinating. This is actually really good. It's the first fully green stadium in North America, where it's maybe the world, but at least definitely North America, where it will be the ice will be laid out from rainwater. Everything is going to be bioelectric. Everything's going to be recyclable. Everything is it's going to leave zero carbon footprint, is what Bezos said this week. And that's why he named it Climate Pledge Arena, which I'm all for. I am all for things that are good for the environment. So I think it's a great idea, even if it's not the best name for a sports arena. But there's a lot to dig into here. I mean, the fact that Amazon bought the naming rights, that they're dipping their toe into the sports world per se, making sense. Obviously, they're doing it up in Seattle, which is where their biggest headquarters is. And just the fact that, what do you think of Climate Pledge Arena?
I don't care what an arena's called, because that has nothing to do with whether I go there or not.
Right.
I think, honestly, I think it's a pretty cool gesture from Amazon. It's like Jeff Bezos, he's got more money than anyone, and he's continually, especially during the coronavirus, given massive amounts of it to charity and to studies, and now to a carbon emission arena or zero carbon emission arena. And there's people out there that just going to hate him, and no matter what he does, it's never going to be enough. I thought this was a pretty big deal. He's not putting Amazon on the building from a marketing standpoint. It's brilliant what he's done, because you'll always know it's him. I mean, people are like, oh, it's a stupid name. I'm like, I don't care. I think it's funny that it's CPA, and that's, every accountant on the planet now is going to have to deal with that. But Like, I think it was personally think it was a pretty cool gesture. I mean, like, people don't do that. Brands don't do that. This is also the first sports arena named like that that's not Giant Stadium, which is not even Giant Stadium anymore.
Yeah, I know.
Right? I mean, I don't believe there's any other there's no other arena out there, to my knowledge, that doesn't have a brand name in front of it, right?
Well, Yankee Stadium, that's the only one.
That's very fair. So Yankee Stadium, which is one of the biggest brands on the planet. All right? So, all right, no big deal there. But no, seriously, like he's making a statement, a major statement at this place, and like, I don't know, man. It's at some point. I'm not saying it's ever got to be good enough for you, but you got to be able to tip your hat and say, hey, that's a pretty cool gesture. Not be like, well, I'm just doing this because of that and this crap and it's stupid. And it's like,
yeah,
that's a sports arena, man. That's a major place. All right, it's a major place. And then I hear stuff. Well, people still have to drive there, and it's going to be like, I mean, it's a good gesture. It's a smart gesture from a business point of view, from an environmental point of view. There's nothing negative about it. Where I sit, okay, and that's my point of view on it. If you want to hate the guy, you're going to find a reason to hate it. That's where I'm at.
I agree. It's really at this point just the Amazon and Jeff Bezos haters that are kind of just like mad at him. But like I think the idea more than anything, the name is whatever. It's like, but
whatever.
But like the idea behind it, again, a zero carbon emission stadium, I think it's the future. It's where we need to go, honestly. And I think it's a great thing that, that it's starting. It's got to start somewhere. So
it's a major deal that he did that. Speaking of Seattle hockey, real quick, Ray. So the team did release 20 names. They're killing me with this name thing, okay? But they did release. I'll tell everybody this. Two things. They released 20 potential names. Kraken was on the list, number one.
Nice.
And I was devastated to see that Grind was not. Because I believed that Seattle Grind was the best possible name for that team.
Yeah, that's the thing is it makes too much sense. So why would that ever work? Why would that ever happen in sports?
Yeah, Kraken's cool until it's not. That's what I keep telling people, right? And then some of the other names were like the Eagles, and like we don't need another Eagles in sports. And then they had some other ones that had to do with obviously sea life and.
I was gonna say though, you already have the Seahawks in Seattle. You don't need another bird up there. Like,
well, and also the Canucks are very, about that in terms of hockey.
Yeah.
So it's like there's just a lot of, it's probably going to be Kraken. I can't at this point if they kind of go away from that, it's like what's the point, guys? I mean, that's what everybody kind of wants.
Yeah.
But I thought Seattle Grind was one of those brilliant names. Everyone I've told that to, no one said that's dumb. No one said that. It's a funny name and it works. It's a cool name. It's like Avalanche.
Yeah.
Right? Like, everybody loves the Colorado Avalanche name. It's a cool name. All right?
Yeah.
It's not the Columbus Blue Jackets or the Flavortown Blue Jackets.
We talked about that with Mark Friedman as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Worst logo in hockey. Come at me, Ohio. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah. But yeah, so that it'll be interesting to see what happens, what Seattle is named. Of course, NHL 21 will be out in a couple of months, and maybe we'll have to make our own franchise. Maybe we'll make our own Seattle Grind.
They better figure it out. We'll see.
Yeah. So we will see. But something else we're going to see, and it's going to take a little time to see, is who will have the first overall draft pick in the NHL draft this year.
What a mess.
Because the draft, the worst possible scenario for the draft lottery happened this week, which was the Detroit Red Wings, who was the worst team in hockey, did not get the number 1 overall pick. The LA Kings, who had two picks, and the Ottawa Senators, who had the 2 and 3 worst records because they got the 3rd pick from San Jose, did not get the number 1 overall pick. Instead, the number 1 overall lottery pick will go to one of the first 8 teams that are eliminated in the first round of the new playoff structure. Each team eliminated will have a 12.5% chance of getting the number 1 draft pick. So the Rangers or the Hurricanes or the Canadiens, if they are eliminated in the first round, the Leafs, they could actually, not only will they have played playoff hockey technically, but they would have a chance. They have a 1 in 8 chance at getting the number 1 overall pick. Lee, the lottery has been there's been its defenders and its contractors for many years, people going back and forth on it, but never before has it really had this bad a light shown on it in a while. What do you think of this result, and what does the league do going here forward with the lottery, if anything?
Well, okay. Look, here's first off my thoughts on the lottery is I like that it's been incentivized not to come in dead last in the league. Okay?
Right.
I've always agreed with that concept of you don't want to let a team just tank to get the first draft picked, okay? Because I just there's something about that bugs me, okay? So in that sense, I've never had a problem with the lottery, all right? Now, with that said, there's been some teams like Detroit who are just horrendous. And, as a hockey fan, you're like, man, they really deserve that first pick, right? And I think they end up, what do they have, like 4? I think they got 4 or 3 or something like that.
4 or 5, actually, yeah.
Now here's the thing. It's a pretty deep draft. It's like most drafts. The first overall pick is already picked and set, and it's a really good player. And then after that, it's a pretty deep draft as well. But, it's just, the NHL did this with kind of the idea of, there's such a low chance that team's going to get the first pick. And, of course, it happens. And now all of a sudden I'm hearing, Bettman did this it's on purpose. I don't think it's on purpose. I think this actually happened. I think they actually did the draw, and it was like the nightmare scenario. They didn't want this. They're probably happy at the attention it's going to get them. All right? Yeah. But, guys, it's not rigged. I don't know how to tell you that. All right? Hockey's not a sport you can rig. All right? So I think it's awkward. I think it's weird. I don't like the idea that a team in this playoff round is going to get the first overall pick. Ottawa, Detroit. Ottawa had 2 picks and got shafted.
Yeah.
It's just, they did not look happy to find out that a playoff team is going to get it. And it just goes to show, they took a risk on this format. And just so everybody knows, if they don't finish the season somehow for whatever reason, they have to do another draft lottery because then this team won't be in there.
Yeah.
So it's just like, look, man, we work really hard in hockey not to look like we have our clown shoes on all the time. This doesn't help.
Yeah.
It doesn't help. And here's some team's going to get it that doesn't really deserve it. And that team's fan base is, and here's what's going to happen. It's going to be like the Flyers should have the first overall pick. And, Patrick Kane's going to be the first pick. And then, instead, the draft lottery happens and he goes to the Chicago Blackhawks. And then he plays for the Chicago Blackhawks. And then 2010, Patrick Kane scores the game-winning goal in the Stanley Cup final against the team he should have been drafted to.
Yeah.
That's what could happen.
You're right. You're right. That's exactly what could happen. Everybody's comparing this. At least I've called it. And again, and that wasn't rigged either. People are saying
it's not rigged. It's not rigged.
People love when things don't go right to how they want them to go. To just say everything's rigged because everybody for years.
Why would they rig it that way? Why would they do that?
But even for years we've heard that Patrick Ewing was rigged to go to the Knicks, right? Back in 1985, for the Knicks to get the number 1 overall draft pick, so Patrick Ewing would go there because it's New York and it's the biggest market. If that was the case, if the NBA wanted to rig the draft, the Knicks would have had the first round draft pick for the past 5 years.
Yeah, it's not. Look, there are certain things that can and cannot be rigged. I don't believe this to have been rigged. There are some sports where you could argue maybe gameplay is rigged. All right? Like when there's long passages of time between plays. Baseball, football, looking at you. You can't rig a hockey game. You can't really rig a basketball game, all right? You might be able to tip it in a favor of someone, but you can't rig the game. It's nearly impossible. All right, it's the same thing with this. I don't again, if Gary Bettman wanted to rig the draft, the Rangers would get the first pick every year.
Yep.
He's a big Rangers fan, okay? But he'll never say that, but he is, okay? So it's just like, and I remember that. The Devils got that first pick the year the Rangers got number 2. It was last year, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not what you think, okay? It's ridiculous, but it is what it is, and we'll live with it, and I'm going to have to watch the Rangers get the first overall pick this year. All right. That also means you get eliminated. So,
right, that's the thing is that again it has to be an eliminated team because I also want to make sure that's clear because some people, including the NBC sports anchors, because they're a bunch of idiots, They were like, so somebody can win the Stanley Cup and get the first overall draft pick? No, you moron. It's only the 8 teams that are eliminated in the first round are now available to get that first overall pick.
That's it.
Okay?
Yeah.
Like, I mean...
So what that does mean is that a 5th seed could potentially get it.
Right,
Okay.
that is true. A very high-ranking team could still get it. Again, assuming that a 12 seed knocks off the 5 seed,
which is highly unlikely, by the way. But you never know with what's
you
going
never
on.
know. Like we talked about this with Mark Friedman. He even mentioned it, which we mentioned before. It's like, what if Carey Price suddenly has the series of his life? Which is not unheard of and not impossible. You could see Montreal steal a series. I mean, the Rangers would have been. I think they're the 10 seed. They were. I mean, it was the way it ended up working out. Like, I mean, like, but it's been. And we said before, the Rangers were also very, very hot. They might have made the playoffs anyway. I actually think the Rangers have a very good matchup against Carolina. I think we match up against them very well. But we'll see. We got to see what happens. We got to even see if there's still hockey. Hopefully there is. But yeah. So speaking of things that ended up getting blown out of proportion. At the time, this was actually very, very serious, but as investigations have shown and brought to light, the Bubba Wallace story down in NASCAR. To set the stage, I believe it was Talladega. They got down there to the garage he was assigned, which is he drives for Richard Petty Motorsports. Of course, Richard Petty, one of the greatest NASCAR drivers of all time. He got there, and one of the crewmen found a noose pole handle on the garage door for the garage, and of course Bubba is the only African American driver in NASCAR, and obviously the symbolism of that, people jumped to conclusions, and of course obviously were that this was a hate crime, that this was a terrible thing, and a terrible thing, a terrible messaging, especially because it had come right on the heels of Bubba leading the charge of having the Confederate flag banned at NASCAR. And again, it's a very volatile time in this country as Black Lives, and again, we both agree Black Lives Matter. We are all for that, but it's also, there's been obviously pushback against that, and it's led to some conflict around the country. After an FBI investigation, after a NASCAR internal investigation, they found that this, while it's absolutely stupid, it's definitely in the shape of a noose, and it's definitely stupid that a noose is being used as a pole handle on any garage door, that it was not a hate crime, that the noose had actually been there that pole handle had been there on that garage for several years. That it had been there long before Bubba was there, that it had been there used by other drivers in that garage, and it was just a terrible coincidence, a terrible visual, obviously. But after, again, there's videotape cameras. They've gone back literally through years of footage to say that garage door had that handle there before. Hopefully people don't use a noose as a pole handle anymore. Or at least that shape. But this was, I mean, I guess for NASCAR, this was the best case scenario because it shows that nobody within NASCAR had done this. Nobody was trying to come after Bubba, which of course, obviously, he was very fearful of and should be. Again, there's a long history of during the push for civil rights of terrible hate crimes done against African Americans and all minorities and people of color. And so the fact that this seems to not be the case is the best case snenario.
Yeah, look, I agree with you. One of our friends, Dan Saunders, says that this was the best case scenario. And there's always a caveat to that. It's the best case scenario after it was discovered and reported that there was a noose in his garage. Okay, obviously the best case scenario was him knowing right away that that's not what that was. That's not the way it played out. Right. And Dan had gone on to say, what did you want them to do, right? Like, because if NASCAR doesn't react to that immediately, it's a major problem. Now, there was a beautiful moment following this on race day where all of the racers got behind and pushed Bubba Wallace's car to the start. It was an incredible moment for NASCAR and for sports where they were unified saying that this kind of hatred will not be tolerated towards our driver. It was beautiful. Everyone that saw it thought it was beautiful. It was a very positive message. It was not politicized in any way.
Nope.
And then, of course, this issue got completely politicized. So that's why we're both saying this is the best case scenario. After it was discovered and believed to be a noose, it wasn't. They had this beautiful moment. It doesn't take anything away from that moment.
Still a beautiful moment.
Doesn't take anything away.
Still a great message.
And then both parties now are trying to claim something from it. It's like, guys, please get out of the way. Yeah. This doesn't concern you. All right? Like I'm happy. I am just as happy to hear that it was not intentional as I am as happy that that moment occurred in terms of the drivers pushing him. Those two things can exist. All right? If you are happy or if you are upset that it wasn't real, you got to really rethink the way you're thinking.
Yeah.
Okay? If you were hoping that was a real hate crime, you got to rethink the way you're thinking. We shouldn't be rooting for hate crimes.
No.
Okay, so it was a sport moment in which was beautifully handled by NASCAR. They made a statement, and it's very unfortunate to me that a large part of that statement now has been lost because we got all these idiots. You see, it wasn't real. You see?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad it wasn't real. Yeah, I'm glad it wasn't real. It's not the point. Okay?
Yeah.
It's not the point. I'm glad it wasn't real, and I'm glad that NASCAR got behind their driver. Positives from that.
Yes, NASCAR's message that racism will not be tolerated in their sport is still a great message and still stands. Like, it's still there. Yeah. Like, it's yeah. No.
Well, again, Ray, a lot of people are, well, they didn't know this. They couldn't just look around. No. The guy walked up to his garage. There's a noose hanging from the garage door.
They go to Talladega once a year. Like,
what do you want him to do? Like, what is he supposed to do? Go around, hey, is there a noose on your door? Hey, is it? No, he was terrified for his life. He was terrified for the situation. He reacted accordingly. All of NASCAR clearly didn't see this.
Yeah.
I hear people, this was planned. Why would they plan this?
Yeah.
Okay, why would they plan? Any reporter could tell you in hindsight, oh, well, there's on every door. They didn't know. And I don't even know if it was on every door, to be honest with you. Point is, they reacted. They responded to what they thought was there.
It wasn't on every door.
Well, there you go. They responded to it correctly, and the best thing happened. It wasn't a hate crime.
Yeah.
We got to see the positives out there as much as the negatives.
Yeah.
There is a lot of good happening in the world right now in addition to the bad. You can't just dive deep into one side and hope for the best. It'd be like me saying there's nothing wrong and everything's wonderful and things are great. Yeah. Meanwhile, people are dying. Oh, it's great. Like it's not realistic.
Yeah.
But just you got to see both sides. Anyway, I'm going to go down a road I don't want to go down if I keep talking.
No, it's true. It's true. It's just you gotta. It's hard. Look, goodness knows, I know it is hard sometimes to, especially now. It's been easier and easier for us all to retreat into our bubbles. But you have to try and look at things objectively as much as possible. And it is hard. I am not saying it is
very
not.
Hard.
But if we're ever going to if anything good is ever going to happen again, we got to start doing the hard work. Like
it starts with us, guys. It starts with us, not with politicians. It starts with us.
Exactly. Because the politician, look. I'm not going to get into it, but I don't like any politician. I hate them all.
Yeah, look. It would surprise, and I can say this without getting into it. It would surprise you. Ray and I don't see eye to eye on a lot of things politically. Okay, but we're best friends, and we can have conversations.
We actually had a heated argument right before the show started.
Well, you did. No, I'm just kidding. But my point is that we don't see eye to eye on everything. We can still have a conversation, distragree, and do this show to the best of our ability.
Yes.
Okay, and that's okay. Like that's the message we're trying to send out right now. It's like the polarization's because of us. Right? I'm not saying the powers that be are not really screwing up and making it worse, but like I'm in control of my mind and my thoughts, not them.
Yep. Oh, goodness. On that note, our last pseudo sports story is a sad one. There you go, Lee. As Lee his eyes roll into the back of his head. You gotta do the tongue too, Lee. You gotta go.
Dong. Dun, 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 dun. Go ahead.
The Undertaker, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, after a 30-year career, is finally hanging up his boots. He is pretty much officially retired. Not to say he might not do an event here or there. Yeah.
There you go. Play this in the background when you talk.
Yeah, I mean, and of course, we'll obviously see him again when he's inducted into the Hall of Fame at some point. One of the greatest wrestlers of all time, but he's in his mid-50s, and for a big man to have the career that he's had, starting in places like WCW and I believe the NWA, and then to of course come to WWE and be given the Undertaker and Paul Bearer as his manager and the urn, and the Undertaker is going to tombstone you, And of course, the dearly departed Paul Bearer, one of the greatest wrestling managers of all time. I do that out of love, not of making fun of. It's a sad moment because it's a large part of our childhoods is retiring. I mean, it's like when any great sports athlete retires, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is top 3 all-time wrestlers right here. All right,
yeah.
I mean, this is the level of Hulk Hogan or Andre the Giant large. I mean, there are very few wrestlers where you hear a bell toll and the whole house shuts down, stands up, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
Not to mention some of the greatest matches in the history of the WWF/E.
Yep.
I mean, so it's time, and he'll be celebrated, and I'm sure we'll see him again.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine he could handle this much longer, and he gave everything he had, and it's a great career. It's incredible. It's almost mythical how long he's been doing this, and God bless him.
Very, very few guys have been able to go through as many errors as the Undertaker. Probably Ric Flair is like the only other one to have gone as long or longer and still be relevant in wrestling. But you have to respect him. He knew it was time, like you said, Lee. It's also he's a big man, which makes it even harder. People don't realize the physical toll on their bodies, and it's a grueling schedule. And he said it. He's in his mid-50s. I think he's 56, and he's like, I want to spend more time with my family. Like, I've been doing this for 30 years on the road. Like, he's married to Michelle McCool, who's a former women's wrestler for WWE. And they and he just wants to spend time with his family and his kids, and he's more than earned that. So rest easy, dead man, and we will we'll see you at the Hall of Fame induction.
Something funny about that.
Yeah.
Rest easy, dead man. I love it.
Well, that's what he is, right? So but
rest in peace.
So that does it for our sports section of the day. Moving on to, speaking of changes and things happening, our first geek story. This is a fun one. Cobra Kai, which me and Lee are both big fans of, is leaving.
Do or die.
Yeah. Strike hard, strike fast, no mercy.
No mercy.
Yes. Cobra Kai Netflix has won the bidding war for Cobra Kai. For those of you who don't know, that YouTube Red and YouTube Prime, or whatever the heck it's called, YouTube is basically done making original content. They realize that there is a glut, there is a saturation in the market right now for a lot of these things, and that they're best focused on just being a provider for other people to make original stuff. And so really one of their only 2 good original shows, the only 2 that were successful, was Cobra Kai. It got 2 seasons. They wanted to make a third. The third was shooting. I believe the third was also, I'm not sure if it had finished shooting or had just started post-production when the pandemic hit. But the bidding war between Hulu and Netflix has been resolved. Netflix is the winner. So now the 2 seasons of Cobra Kai will remain on YouTube, but will also at some point in the future join Netflix. And then the 3rd season will exclusively debut on Netflix at a to-be-determined date. Lee, I don't know about you, but I'm excited the fact that, we definitely know for sure at some point, definitely Cobra Kai Season 3 is happening. But I'm also really excited the fact that it's gone to Netflix.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, it's almost as a badge of like legitimacy in a lot of ways. Not that it wasn't when it was on YouTube, but like this was a very experimental show. I mean, YouTube kind of bet the farm that this was going to take off, and it was at the time it was written pretty ambitious to think that like I know people are like, oh well, yeah, it's kind of a reboot or it's a revamp, but like they wrote this really ambitiously in the sense of the show is somewhat self-aware that it was an 80s movie, and it embraces that, but also makes fun of that, which is really hard to do. And I really respect the writing on this show because they say things sometimes and do things sometimes that could be really corny if you did it wrong. But it's really corny in the right way. So I think it's a great move to Netflix where it will live. I think it's great for Netflix. It's a great show. Where they left off after season 2 really could go a lot of cool places right now. I'm not saying it's something I want to see for 7 years. All right, like I want to see the storyline kind of close itself out at some point. But
yes,
I'm glad to hear this. It's great.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think it's a 7-year show, but
it better not be.
I would. Yeah, at some point they'll come to closure. But the fact the ties they left open at the end of season 2. We definitely need some closure on, and we're...
well, yeah. I mean, they pretty much teased Elizabeth Shue coming back into the show. I mean, so I'd love to see that. No spoiler alert, but I mean, like, it's not really. I mean, it's, she's part of the franchise, so...
Well, especially when you talk about the rivalry between Daniel LaRusso and Johnny Lawrence, so...
Yeah.
So it's gonna be great. Looking forward to that. Speaking about being self-aware, though, we go into our... We move on now to DC, and it has been rumored after the internet has been screaming for it for forever that in the Flashpoint movie that supposedly is back on and is back happening, after Ezra Miller basically confirmed in the Crisis on Infinite Earths for the CW, where he made a guest appearance on the Flash and to basically be like, there are other Flashes, there are other universes, and DC brilliantly did something by tying their movie explaining why they can have all these different movie universes and the TV universes, all this other stuff, and how they could all live separately because you've had this in the comics for 40 freaking years that there are multiple universes.
What?
They realized they can bring the Tim Burton Batman into as a universe. And you can have old Michael Keaton.
Wait, Michael Keaton?
Michael Keaton.
Like Michael Keaton, not
Beetlejuice, like
Michael
the Vulture, like Birdman, like Batman, Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton. Multiplicity, Michael Keaton.
We don't talk about that one.
From My Life.
Yeah, Michael Keaton.
My Life.
Johnny
Michael
Dangerously.
Keaton.
Michael Keaton, yes. Desperate
like
Measures.
Michael.
And by the way, I'm not looking at an
Keaton.
IMDb thing right now. These are just we're just rattling off all our Michael Keaton movies, but
not Christian Bale yet. Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton.
Okay.
Will be.
Just want to make sure we established
yes.
that actual Batman would be playing Batman potentially.
It's supposedly in talks to come back and reprise his role as an older Batman who meets Ezra Miller at some point as he crosses through the multiple universes, which also, of course, has brought up the speculation, can we finally get a live-action Batman Beyond movie with Michael Keaton as old Batman and cast, I don't care who as Terry McGinnis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whoever.
Yeah, exactly. I really don't care. Well, I mean, I'll care if it's but at this point, I would go see that for Michael Keaton alone as an old, grumpy, even grumpier Batman.
Yeah, look, it's ambitious as all hell, and it's the only thing that could potentially save this universe at this point. I'll be honest with you, if they screw that up, it's going to die anyway, the way it's going. Yeah. So you might as well go out with a bang. All right. I also heard that they were talking about if Michael Keaton doesn't come to terms that they're going to try and get Christian Bale, which there's no way in hell Christian Bale will do that. But there's a lot of talk. Look, this is a cool move. If they could bring back Michael Keaton as Batman, make it work. There's a lot of people now that want Ben Affleck back as Batman too.
Mm-hmm. That's not going to happen.
Well, it'll be very interesting to see what's going on in DC right now. Like, again, for those of you who don't know Flashpoint, they could, Ray and I could both tell you this, they could very much pull this off with the Flashpoint storyline. And I think what's going on with Marvel, with Multiverse of Madness, and they talked about the multiverse, and I believe Marvel is positioning themselves to go down that road somehow at some point, but I don't know that. Okay, but I believe they're looking to do that. So DC could get a jump here if they really wanted to.
Yeah, for once, they could actually be the ones doing the leading again. Shouldn't say for once. They could again be the leader in this particular direction. Because actually, as you mentioned that, wouldn't it be funny if Marvel did like David Hasselhoff as Nick Fury, and you have him meet Samuel L. Jackson?
That'd be great. And David Hasselhoff, no stranger to Marvel films, having been in Guardians of the Galaxy too.
That's also true.
That's
right.
Yeah, they could totally do something here, but like... I mean, like they could even fix Harvey Dent if they really wanted to. Bring back Billy D. Williams.
That would be that would be amazing.
No, here's the thing: you don't have to go crazy. But like, look, for a lot of people, Michael Keaton is still Batman, including Michael Keaton. So look, obviously the fans are for it. I was joking with Ray. I would not be surprised if Keaton's agent leaked this. Just to be like, do you want to see how much people want this?
As a bargaining.
Do you want to see how much people watch this? Boom. Okay. The whole world was, what? And then there was something about Catwoman coming back. I mean, there's a lot they could do with this.
Yeah, they mentioned Michelle Pfeiffer as well, yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't need to be crazy. Like, again, you and I are having a lot of crazy ideas, but it doesn't need to be crazy. It's very much something people would want to see. You could very much fix your universe, or at least put it in a position to go a different direction. And not be so fractured.
Yeah, I don't know.
Michael Keaton.
Yes, I was going to say, I don't think what we're talking about is that crazy. I think it's just a matter of DC getting their stuff together and listening to the fans. And speaking of listening to the fans...
Real quick, when I say too crazy, I mean, like, look, a couple of these guys is good. You can go too far with it, right?
For sure.
You can get to the point it becomes ridiculous. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
Right, so you got to be careful not to do that. Like if you don't want Christian Bale and Val Kilmer and Michael Keaton and Ben Affleck and George
Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Robin.
Yeah, I mean you don't want all these people back in the same movie. That's not going to play well. All right,
yeah.
But if you did one, you never know.
Yeah, I think one is fine, maybe even two. But I think that this will be interesting. Yeah, if you did like Keaton and Bale, I think that would be cool, and I think you could leave it at that. Or even if you did, well, didn't they had? I shouldn't say. I was gonna say they had Routh as Superman, as Earth 2 Superman on the TV show. So I was gonna say, so that they could have done that as well, or maybe you bring back Linda Carter as, Wonder Woman, maybe. There's
a lot you could do. It's got to be. This is where you get yourself a really good scriptwriter, guys.
Yes, no, exactly, because it is a deep rabbit hole. You could definitely easily fall down that rabbit hole way too easily. But it is good that it seems that DC is listening to their fans, and of course, Jon Favreau, the mastermind behind one of the masterminds behind the early Marvel universe, Marvel Cinematic Universe, and of course, the Mandalorian and Clone Wars with Star Wars. Talked this week about how important it is to listen sometimes to the fans. And this is something that DC struggled with for a very long time. But Jon Favreau talked about how whenever you put something out there into fandom, that you need to sometimes listen to the echo that comes back in this echo chamber. You have to sometimes listen to how people respond. If people who are so invested in this material, whether it's Star Wars or Marvel or anything else, obviously those are the two that he's worked with, that it's important to hear back from your fans and adjust the sometimes to adjust as needed. And I think that's something that a lot of folks at DC can really take to heart, because at least it seems like they are finally starting to listen to this. But it shows part of the reason why the MCU and the Mandalorian and Clone Wars have all been so successful for Disney.
Yeah, so here's the deal, okay, is DC never seemed to realize, and a lot of Hollywood is in this boat, that for the longest time, you could put out a movie and no one could really critique it too much publicly. You would see the movie, and if you didn't like it, you probably never talked about it. in today's day and age, if a movie comes out of that size and it's bad, you're going to be panned, not by critics, by the viewers, by the fans, hard and heavy on social media forever. Forever. Okay? So Favreau's always understood that. That's why he makes jokes in The Mandalorian about stormtroopers missing and being horrible at aim, which was a ridiculous scene, but every fan got it.
Yes.
All right, or why Baby Yoda can sip out of a cup like Kermit the Frog, because every fan got it.
Yes.
Okay? That's the type of stuff that I'm talking about. All right? You can't survive anymore in Hollywood just going, this is it, you like it or you don't. Sonic the Hedgehog is a fantastic example of that, of a movie that legit saved its own franchise while sacrificing an entire studio by listening to its fans. We don't want this way of Sonic looking. Again, 30 years ago, it is what it is. That's how you got Super Mario Brothers, the movie.
Yeah.
Okay? I mean, can you imagine if that came out today, Ray? Can you imagine? Imagine if a trailer came out for that?
It might not only be the end of like certain studios, it could be the end of of certain video games.
It might hurt Nintendo.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
yeah,
so like it's a different time, and they got to figure that out, and they have, or they're starting to. They can also screw this up very easily too. So I don't want to act like they're out of the water. I'm just excited about the idea.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens as things develop. But also speaking of other things in the Marvel universe and other multiverses and all this other stuff, a fun thing happened yesterday as part of I think it was like Heroes United. It was a charity thing for a lot of stuff that was going on. And our good buddy Ryan Reynolds, aka Deadpool, so they were doing as if it was a reunion of the original X-Men movie. So you had Patrick Stewart, you had Halle Berry, you had Famke Janssen, you had Hugh Jackman, you had an icon for Ian McKellen. I don't actually think he was there because he never said anything. I think it was just more a visual gag. And then suddenly you have Ryan Reynolds pop in because he technically part of the X-Men universe, sort of, kind of. Anyway, Ryan popped in.
It was awesome.
And it was hysterical, and of course he made it awkward, and then of course Famke and Halle Berry, basically the comedy starts immediately. Like they're like, I have a James Bond reunion. Famke leaves. Halle Berry's like, I have one too. She leaves. Ian McKellen
just disappears.
Just disappears. And James McAvoy pops in, obviously from
Sophie Turner does too.
Yeah, exactly. And McAvoy's like, hey, professor, 2 professors, 1 cup, and he takes a sip of coffee or whatever, and it got very awkward very quickly. It was hysterical. It's like a 1.5-minute video. If you have time, go watch it. My favorite.
It's on our page. We put it on the Geeks page. The best part is it ends up just being Jackman and Reynolds at the end, and this is what Reynolds wanted. And then in comes Sabretooth. He's just like, hey, X-Men's Origins review. You Liev Schreiber comes in. You got to see it. It's very quick. You got to see it. It's classic Hugh Jackman and Reynolds humor.
Yeah, it was great. And the fact that everybody got on board for that was terrific. It was a lot of fun. And it was for a good cause, which is always terrific as well. So definitely check that out. Still speaking of Disney stuff, new things coming to Disney Plus in the next couple of weeks. Which is a big deal. For me personally, big one is a new Muppet show. I heard about this, and I was super excited because I grew up on the Muppets. I was a big Muppet fan. The Muppet Show originally, even though a lot of the jokes...
Who isn't? Who is not a Muppet fan, right? Like that knows them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's one of those franchises that just can't seem to figure it out.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's the sad thing is that some Muppet stuff has been great, some stuff not so much. I think Jason Segel did the Muppet movie, I think 5 or 6 years ago, and it was terrific. Because again,
I think it was 10 years ago, right?
Is it 10 years ago? Wow.
I think it's longer than 5. I think it's a while. Yeah, I say it was a while ago.
The thing is yeah, like Lee said, is you got to make sure you have somebody who understands them, because they also had that one season of a TV show a couple years ago that was kind of like an Office spoof that didn't do so well. You got to know the brand, you got to know the material, and it looks like, at least from promos, that this should be right up the Muppets alley, so I'm excited to see that. And also a big deal, because even if you're on the East Coast, I don't know anybody who's spending $500 a ticket for this. Hamilton is gonna, I guess the movie or I don't know, is it a recording of the play?
They filmed the live performance.
They filmed the live performance, so that is going to be joining Disney Plus. So if you've never had a chance to see Hamilton, like I haven't, but have obviously heard amazing things, it's a cultural phenomenon led by Lin-Manuel Miranda. That will be joining Disney Plus. Actually, when this episode airs this week, I believe the 3rd, over 4th of July weekend.
It's funny because some people are mad at him for releasing this. And people are like, I spent $500 to go see you guys in the theater. Guys, it did so well. That's why it's coming to Disney Plus. This is like the ultimate compliment for a Broadway show, is to be on there. And they didn't make a movie out of it. It's in its Broadway form. They also know that like their run on Broadway is over, ladies and gentlemen. It's been over for a while. Yeah. Okay, they're touring the world right now. And he came back to play Hamilton, which he hasn't played Hamilton in a long time. Yeah. So I don't know. I was reading some comments. As people like, this is ridiculous. What do you want? What do you people want? It's like just be happy. It's coming to Disney Plus. What's wrong with you?
Yeah. Well, that's a bigger problem of society in general, is that sometimes people just can't be happy for other people.
No, it's hilarious. I'm like, geez, man. Like I saw it years ago. Like presidents have seen this. Like what's wrong with you? Yeah. It's like now we all can enjoy it.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. Let everybody share in this. Like, ugh.
Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of sharing, or maybe no more sharing, this was big. This was a big deal. We got some big video game stories coming this week. Mixer, which was Microsoft's answer supposedly to Twitch, had the plug pulled this week. They after giving Ninja $20 million and Shroud $10 million to be exclusive to Mixer, Microsoft bit the bullet, took the loss, paid those guys out, finished their contracts, and then boop, pulled the plug. It shows that just sometimes it's hard to be the second guy when it comes to technology, to be the second guy to the dance floor. It's sometimes hard to be. And also, Microsoft also pushed people to say that they are going to be helping to support Facebook online gaming and told a lot of their streamers to go there. There was some huge blowback from that. A lot of streamers were very angry about that because Facebook's tools right now are not as good as Mixer or Twitch. Hopefully, though, maybe if Microsoft works with Facebook, they'll take some of Mixer's stuff and maybe like revamp what they have right now. There's also rumors that Facebook also originally offered Shroud and Ninja money as well, on top of the money Microsoft was already paying them, to come as part of the transfer, but they both declined. Yeah, there's several rumors circulating that's because they are going to go exclusively sign with Spotify and Amazon, who are going to announce a upcoming streaming service. Not Amazon. My apologies. Amazon is obviously already Twitch. Google is the one who's going to possibly have their own streaming service
through Stadia, maybe.
Right, exactly. So that there's rumors that instead they got a better offer from Google. And that they might go there. Of course, that's just rumors and speculation. There's no confirmation on that. It's a big deal that one service sunsets and possibly others might rise to take its place. But the streaming community was shook this week for a variety of reasons, but that was one of the big ones.
Yeah, look, here's the thing. When it comes to like Ninja and stuff like that, I think it's actually like Facebook wasn't giving them what they wanted. I like that they want to lead their own destiny. That's entrepreneurship. That's good business. That's smart business. Mm-hmm. Go create something better for yourself. If you don't want to be under the guise of Facebook. With that said, I think Facebook Gaming has made incredible jumps and strides over the last few years since they launched it. It's an amazing audience. There's already billions of people on there. So I think when companies compete, consumers win. Viewers win, so forth and so on. So while it's tough, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, no, I think it'll be good, and I would feel remiss not mentioning it this week as well, just as we're talking about streaming. But there was also a big sweeping Me Too movement that hit the streaming audience this week, and video games in general, really. Creative directors, PR people, but especially in the streaming community, a lot of those folks have been hit by this because it seems that a lot of them are really terrible people. And I just want to say that, of course, Lee and I don't want to speak for Lee, but I feel that we believe survivors of abuse, that we stand with them, that and that we commend the women who have come forward, and men too, actually, who have come forward with their stories of abuse in the workplace or abuse in the video game industry, or abuse against streamers. A lot of streamers have been suspended. There was actually something that I took part in this week, which is called the Twitch Blackout. Not everybody took part in it, which is a shame, but a lot of folks did not stream on Wednesday this week to kind of show solidarity with these people. And hopefully that Amazon and Twitch will talk about this in some way and try to make their community less toxic. And unfortunately, this is something that's, again, plagued the video game industry as a whole, is that there's a lot of toxicity in the game industry, and it's time that we need to start cleaning it up. And hopefully this is a start of bigger things to come. And I felt personally that we'd be remiss if we did not mention that, because it really shook the industry to its core. Literally, this was announced that Mixer closed, and literally an hour later, it came out. All these reports came out of all of these streamers, huge streamers too. And it was just a 1-2 punch on Monday that really shook the game industry to its core. So I felt like we'd be remiss not mentioning that.
Yeah, well, look, for those who listen to the show, this is Ray's industry, and I will speak for Ray in the sense of that Ray was very shook up, as he's saying, because he hates that this could happen, and nationally or internationally or whatever. There's really no tolerance for it. I believe in due process as well, and I hope that these people and the victims take these people to where they need to be taken so they can be tried and taken care of accordingly. But there's no place for it. I said, from the ashes, the phoenix will rise, and good people like you, Ray, will rise to the top. And I get it, in my own industries too, we don't accept that either. But I'm saying I think you're a leader in your industry, and I think that, that will come to show itself in years to come.
Yeah. Thank you, and it's gonna be interesting to see what happens. Obviously, there's been one of the major companies that was rocked by this was Ubisoft. They announced Friday, of course, a slew of investigations have been opened up within the company to see the validity of everything, and like you said, due process, of course, but it doesn't look good for a lot of the accused. I will say that, but we will let the courts and the systems. And the investigations of these companies run their course, and we will see what happens. But yeah, so trying to turn this. I love it. We talk about something sad. Now these are the hardest transitions, and we have to talk now about good stuff. A huge news. We and Lee, of course, are huge Pokemon fans. We've talked about it a lot here on the show.
Mahomes.
Yes, something that will probably actually be. Here's our transition. Something that'll be probably streamed a lot when it comes out is the newest Pokemon game announced, called Pokemon Unite. Now, for those of you who don't know, it's a MOBA with Pokemon. For those of you who don't know what a MOBA is, it's basically League of Legends. It's Smite. It's that multiplayer online battle arena where it used to be Paragon before they had the plug pulled, and you had. Basically, you have teams of 5 or 6 or 4. Usually it's 5. And you play different characters, and you're trying to take over control points or destroy towers. It's really become a phenomenon. Of course, League of Legends is one of the biggest esports in the world, which is why now I think that when you take that gameplay, you marry it to a franchise like Pokemon, you'll wonder why it didn't happen sooner. This looks like this could be the next big thing for Nintendo. We have to see, though.
Yeah, like we were talking about this just last week about Nintendo will have something up their sleeve. They always do, and it's always outside the box thinking. So, you have two of the biggest entities in the world kind of coming together here, which is usually a recipe for either massive disaster or massive success. But knowing what's happening here, they typically don't do anything wrong.
Yeah, no, with Pokemon, I think this is going to be a home run. And like I said, I think it's going to be streamed a lot. I think you're going to see a new esport rise out of this, or at least for a new game. It's going to be fascinating. It's going to be really interesting to see what it is and to see how much Nintendo supports it, right? Because online play typically isn't their typically isn't their forte, right? It's not their focus. But
not seriously. It's more fun with Nintendo, right?
Right, and I think for this to be a true success, they're going to have to focus a bit more on online with this. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. And then our final video game story, our final story of the day before we get to our mashup, The Last of Us 2, which came out last week, is now the fastest-selling Sony exclusive ever. It sold 4 million copies in a week. That reports out of the UK. They just beat Uncharted 4 by a little bit. I think it was I think people said it was like something like 40,000 units or whatever, but in the course of that week, it was literally a very slim margin. But congrats to them. I personally haven't played it and probably won't play it for a while because I admit this, I did not enjoy the first one. I know a lot of people think it's amazing, but I was not for me. And B, especially right now in the midst of a pandemic, I do not feel that a realistic zombie apocalypse game is something I mentally or emotionally can handle at this particular moment. So I am going to hold off until that is maybe at least on sale at some point, or it gets a PS5 remaster or something, and I'll hold off on that. And because of those reasons, I'm also going to make a very bold claim right here. In about 3 weeks, a new game called Ghost of Tsushima comes out. I am going to say that because of the pandemic, that Ghost of Tsushima is going to beat The Last of Us 2 record in just about a month.
That's bold.
Yeah,
it's a bold claim.
I think because my gut says there are more gamers that enjoy open world games. There are people who are still going to be home in a month, unfortunately, and I think that Sucker Punch has such a great pedigree. Then if I remember correctly, they did the Sly Cooper games, and then, of course, mostly best known for the Infamous games, which is, of course, about the reluctant superheroes of that universe. I think that the idea of going to feudal Japan and becoming a ninja or a samurai and having that open world and choosing those paths, plus the promised length of this open world game, I think this is great on Sucker Punch because they began the PS4 generation with a terrific game in Infamous Second Son, although I like the first Infamous better. And I think they're going to close it out with a terrific game in Ghost of Tsushima. And I am predicting right now that Ghost of Tsushima will sell more than 4 million copies in 1 week. That's how big a game I think this is going to be now. I could be wrong, but that's my prediction.
Well, Ray, if you're wrong, you have to fly to Philadelphia. To have a cheesesteak with me. If you're right, you have to fly out to Philadelphia to have a cheesesteak with me.
Yeah.
I win either way.
Yeah, no, exactly. But I'm going to tell you this: I am buying Ghost of Tsushima. So there's one more copy of Ghost of Tsushima.
There's one more
than Last of Us.
I want to go to the Ghost of Sushi restaurant because I haven't had sushi in a long time. Wouldn't really trust it right now. Not going to lie to you.
That's true too. But yeah, neither have I. I miss sushi.
Oh boy, I'm hungry now. Thank you, Ray. Way to go.
Yeah. It is getting to be about dinner
self-serving.
time. About dinner time.
It's past dinner time here. Go ahead.
So that does it for today's show.
Real quick. Before we get to the mashup, we are gonna have a mashup. I did want to give a shout out to one of our listeners. He has listened to probably every episode we've ever done. His name is Casey. Casey and Tara had a newborn baby, Annika, just yesterday, I believe, or 2 days. Within the last 48 hours, they had a newborn baby, Annika Owasco. So I want to congratulate Casey and Tara. And Annika, you better be a fan of the show in 7 to 10 years. If not, Casey, we're going to have a talk. But aside from that, congratulations to both of you on the birth of your daughter.
Yes, congrats to you, Casey, and your wife and your daughter. That is amazing news. Amazing news. But yes, as Lee mentioned, we will now get into the mashup, which has nothing to do with babies. I
could make a segue, but I won't.
Well, we were just talking about The Last of Us 2. So we asked for our mashup this week. Yeah. Is what athlete would be in your Last of Us / Apocalypse party to help you survive? Who would you pick? Lee, what athlete would you want to take into the Apocalypse?
So here's the deal. yeah, when you think about this, it's like most mashups. Like there's like the you take this guy, you take that guy, but you really got to think about it because the person can't be self-serving that they're going to get you killed, right? They have to be likable enough that you want to keep them alive, and you have to be willing on them to make the sacrifice play if needed, which is really a hallmark of really good zombie apocalypse groups. So I started racking my brain, and I'm like, they got to be athletic too, and they got to, like longevity. And I was going all over the place. And then a name popped in my head, and I was like, that's the guy. Okay? And it's Doug Flutie.
Wow. Doug
Flutie is in my party, right? Or Serena Williams.
Yeah.
I win either way.
Yeah, that's a good one. Funny enough, I'm also going to pick a football player.
Or Serena Williams. I would take Serena Williams as well. Just say.
No, look, if we can take multiple people, sure, Serena can come along too. I'm all for it. Like,
no. She's in my party. You get your own party.
Okay.
Wait, are we in the same party? I would
hope we're in the same party.
Okay, well, Doug and Serena are in our party now. Who are you bringing?
Okay, so the person I'm bringing is also a...
By the way, we die in this party right away. It doesn't matter.
Oh, we are the weak link.
I
am the weakest link, right? Automatically.
Yeah, no. I die saving you. That's obvious what happens.
Oh, no. That can't... because then I would be so guilt-ridden I'd be useless the rest of the trip anyway.
Yeah, for 2 seconds till you die. It's fine. And then I walk away from it unscathed, then I'm really the one who's guilty. Like, it should have been me. You just had to have that cheesesteak.
Anyway, the person that I would bring along in the apocalypse, the athlete I would bring along is Marshawn Lynch. I would bring Marshawn Lynch. Beast mode.
Yeah, I could see him. Beast moding through it. It's a pretty cool one. I mean,
he's also a very selfless guy. He does a lot of charity work.
He's a good guy.
He's also
Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah, I think he'd be a good in the apocalypse. I think obviously very physically fit, very good at tearing through zombies. Yeah. I think when you think of a tank, right? Like I think Marshawn Lynch is definitely there, and I think again a selfless guy who's willing to make the play. Willing to do with the
or not make it
the team,
or not make the play. I said or not make the play.
It all depends on who's calling the plays.
Yeah. Can you imagine this? Like Marshawn, Doug, Serena. It's time. Hi guys, it's Ray and I. Where were you guys? Well, there was a restaurant and they had food. Guys, we're about to charge out into the field, but they had food at the restaurant. So Doug. I got you some Fruity Flakes.
Fruity Flakes, yeah.
They had some. Guys, is that really important right now? Well, I thought it was a nice gesture. Ray, did you think it was a nice gesture?
I thought it
was a nice gesture. Guys, do you see it? They're gone. They're just not there anymore.
Yeah. I guess it's just you and me, buddy.
That's fine. We win. Welcome to Geeks Like Sports Apocalyptic episode number 37.
Yeah. Exactly.
After our counterparts were all killed by charging in the field.
They turn into audio logs so that after we die, somebody else finds them and they become the collectible in their video game.
Yeah. There's a man going around taking names. Okay, I'll let you finish that. Anyway, everybody, thank you so much for listening again. We love you. Please comment below. Again, we talked about some pretty controversial topics in this episode, or could be perceived as that. And appreciate you listening and wanting to have a good conversation, a sane conversation. That's what we thrive on. And geekdom and sportsdom. And Ray Carcillo, my best friend, over in Los Angeles. Ray, close it out.
Yeah, so like Lee said, that does it for this episode 63 of Geeks Who Like Sports. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Be sure to stick around. Later in the week, again, the Mark Friedman interview is dropping right after the... so this will be... it's a big week for Geeks Who Like Sports. A lot of great stuff. Also, have a great 4th of July weekend. That's coming up this week. We didn't mention it in the Friedman interview because we were talking to Mark Friedman. But definitely want to wish everybody a happy and safe holiday weekend. I know it's going to be tempting to go out and barbecue and pool, but if you do, be sure to be safe while doing it. Wear a mask. Try to socially distance. All that other good stuff. That's our PSA also for the week. But thank you again, guys, for listening. As always, we will be back next week. We are not taking any time off for 4th of July. We will be back next Monday. We'll be right back.
We got nothing else to do.
Yeah, we really don't. It's honestly the truth. We really don't. But
fly here, have a cheesesteak.
Yeah. So for Lee, I'm Ray. Again, thank you all for listening. This has been Geeks Who Like Sports, episode number 63. We will see you all again on Thursday, and then again next week. Good night, everybody.